The storm's gift. The plasma rifle's hum filled Marcus Webb's cabin as purple lightning split the alien sky. Kepler 442b's storms were legendary violent, electromagnetic tempests that could fry unshielded electronics and turn the crimson forests into blazing infernos. But tonight's storm brought something unexpected. His perimeter alarm chimed softly through the chaos outside. Marcus set down his coffee, weathered hands reaching for the pulse pistol he kept nearby. 3 years of homesteading on this frontier world had taught him caution. The native predator's 6-legged hunters, called scarith, often sought shelter during storms, and his cabin's heat signature made it an attractive target. The security display showed a humanoid figure collapsed against his storage shed. Too small for a scarith, too bipedal for any known fauna. Marcus grabbed his medkit and thermal cloak, steeling himself against the howling wind. What he found made him freeze. Collapsed in the mud was a Zephyrian, one of the moth-like aliens humanity had been warring with for the past decade. Her iridescent wings were torn, gossamer membranes hanging in tatters. Pale blue ichor leaked from wounds across her torso. Mixing with the alien rain dot, she stirred as his light found her, compound eyes reflecting terror. A crystalline blade materialized in her trembling hand, biotechnology that could slice through combat armor. But her grip was weak, her movements sluggish from blood loss. "Easy," Marcus whispered, raising his empty hands. "I'm not going to hurt you." The Zephyrian's mandibles clicked in what he recognized as distress. Her species translation implants would render his words, but trust was another matter entirely. Humanity and the Zephyrian collective had been locked in brutal conflict ever since first contact went catastrophically wrong. Stories of human experimentation facilities, of captured Zephyrians dissected for their biotechnology, filled the news feeds. Lightning struck nearby, the electromagnetic pulse making her cry out in pain. Zephyrians were naturally sensitive, too. Such disturbances, another fact from his military briefings, that now seemed academic compared to the suffering being before him. "The storm's getting worse," Marcus said, extending his hand. "Let me help you inside." She stared at his outstretched palm, as if it were a venomous serpent. But another lightning strike, closer this time, decided for her. She reached out with one delicate, 4-fingered hand, her touch lighter than butterfly wings. Marcus helped her to his cabin, her weight barely registering against his shoulder. Inside, she immediately positioned herself in a corner, blade still active, compound eyes tracking his every movement. "My name's Marcus," he said, hanging his thermal cloak by the door. "I'm going to get some medical supplies, okay? You're hurt pretty badly." The Zephyrian said nothing, but her blade flickered uncertainly. Marcus moved slowly, narrating his actions as he gathered supplies. Outside, the storm raged on, trapping them together in a fragile bubble of warmth and light. The language of scars Marcus learned her name was Visith, a melodic sound that seemed to resonate with frequencies beyond human hearing. Over the following days, as the storm system moved on, she remained in his cabin like a wounded bird afraid to test damaged wings. She spoke little, communicating mostly through the subtle color shifts in her wing patterns, emotions made visible in ways humanity was only beginning to understand. Deep purples indicated fear, rapid silver flickers meant pain, and the rare golden shimmer suggested curiosity. "You were a soldier," she said on the third morning, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Her compound eyes had fixed on the military-issued medkit, the precise way he'd cleaned her wounds, the unconscious alertness that never fully left his posture. Marcus nodded, not trusting his voice. He'd been part of the 43rd Colonial Defense Regiment specialists in alien pacification operations. The euphemism tasted like ash in his mouth now. "Catherine facility," Visith continued, watching his reaction carefully. "You know this place." "Marcus's." hands stilled on the coffee cup he was washing. Catherine had been one of their intelligence gathering operations, a sterile term for the horrors that followed. He provided perimeter security, while scientists probed captured Zephyrians, seeking to understand their biotechnology. The screams that echoed from those laboratories still haunted his sleep. "I was there," he admitted quietly. "I didn't know. We were told it was necessary for the war effort." Visith's wings rippled deep purple, then shifted to a color he'd never seen before, a dark, mournful blue that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "My clutch sister Nalith died there. They cut away her song organs to understand our communication frequencies." The cup slipped from Marcus's numb fingers, shattering against the floor. He knelt to collect the pieces, using the mundane task to hide his trembling hands. How many Zephyrians had died while he stood guard outside? How many families destroyed? In the name of human superiority? "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so damned sorry. Why did you leave?" Visith asked. Marcus finished gathering the ceramic shards, their edges cutting into his palms. "Because I finally understood what we were really fighting for. Not freedom, not protection, just the right to inflict suffering on anyone different from us." He told her about the day he'd walked away from his unit, how he'd come to this remote world to escape the weight of his complicity. The homestead was his penance, a quiet life far from the machinery of war. Visith listened without judgment, her wings gradually shifting from mournful blue to something approaching silver-touched. Amber, not forgiveness, perhaps, but understanding. "The facility where I was held," she said eventually, "they tried to harvest our neural silk. Wanted to create human Zephyrian hybrid interfaces for their war machines. You escaped? 17 of us attempted to. I was the only one who made it to the transport bay." Her wings folded tightly against her back. "Your people, they do not understand that we feel pain as you do." Growing trust as Kepler's twin suns traced their path across alien skies, a routine developed between human and Zephyrian. Marcus tended to his hydroponic gardens and protein farms, while Visith slowly healed. Her natural regeneration accelerated. By the specialized nutrients he'd learned to cultivate, she was fascinated by his approach to agriculture. Where human colony ships typically strip-mined worlds for resources, Marcus had spent years learning to work with Kepler's ecosystem. His crops were genetically modified to complement native soil bacteria, creating symbiotic relationships rather than parasitic ones. "Your species confuses me," Visith said one evening as they watched the sunset paint the sky in impossible shades of violet and gold. "You can be both destroyer and nurturer." Marcus considered this as he cleaned his farming tools. "Maybe that's what makes us human, the choice between what we could be and what we are." Visith's wings shimmered with curiosity patterns. "The collective believes humans are incapable of true empathy, that your neural structures prevent understanding of other consciousness forms. What do you think?" She was quiet for a long moment, her compound eyes reflecting the dying light. "I think you choose to see me as Visith, not as alien. This is rare among your kind." Over the weeks that followed, she began sharing more of herself. Zephyrian culture was built around harmony and collective consciousness, concepts that had made first contact with individualistic humanity so catastrophically misunderstood. Their biotechnology wasn't conquest-oriented, but symbiotic, designed to enhance natural systems rather than replace them. Marcus found himself learning her language, not just the translated words, but the wing patterns, the harmonic frequencies that carried emotional context. In return, he taught her about human culture beyond warfare. Art, music, the strange concept of personal identity that drove so many human achievements and tragedies. "Your people sing beautifully," she told him after he'd played some classical music on his old tablet, "but it carries such sadness." "Maybe because we know we're singing alone," Marcus replied. Viseth's wings flickered with an emotion he couldn't interpret. "Not alone," she said softly. "Not anymore." The first sign of trouble came at dawn on the 37th day. Marcus's long-range communications array detected approaching ships, human military vessels, moving in search patterns. They'd found his world. He watched Viseth's wings shift to panic purple as she processed what this meant. The choice was coming: return to the war he'd fled, or risk everything for a connection that transcended species. "They're coming for me," Viseth whispered, her song organs producing harmonics of pure fear. Marcus checked his weapons charge and sealed his armor joints. "Then they'll have to go through me first." The reckoning, the UCS Retribution, descended through Kepler's atmosphere like an avenging angel, its hull scarred by a dozen campaigns. Marcus watched through his cabin's reinforced windows as dropships detached from the main vessel, heading directly for his coordinates. "Homesteader Webb," a familiar voice crackled over the comm system. "This is Colonel Patricia Voss, 43rd Colonial. Defense, we're tracking a fugitive xenoform to your location. Prepare for inspection." Marcus closed his eyes. Voss had been his commanding officer at Kitharin, a woman who viewed Zephyrians as sophisticated insects rather than sentient beings. If she found Viseth here, the research teams would have their prize, and his friend would disappear into another facility where her screams would join the chorus of the damned. "Viseth," he called softly. "There's a hidden chamber beneath the hydroponics bay. Emergency rations, medical supplies, a communication array tuned to collective frequencies." Her wings flickered between gold and purple gratitude, mixed with terror. "You would defy your own kind for me?" "You're not my enemy," Marcus said, checking his rifle's power cell. "You never were." The first dropship landed in his front yard, disgorging 12 Marines in full combat armor. Marcus met them at his door, trying to project casual confidence while his heart hammered against his ribs. "Colonel," he nodded as Voss approached, her helmet's faceplate reflecting his weathered features. "Marcus." She gestured to the soldiers, fanning out around his property. "We detected a Zephyrian distress beacon 3 days ago. Trail led here. Haven't seen anything unusual," he lied smoothly. "Storm probably scattered whatever signal you were tracking." Voss studied him with the sharp eyes of a predator sensing deception. "Mind if we take a look around?" "For your safety, of course. These aliens are dangerous." The search was thorough and professional. Marcus watched soldiers tear through his home, looking for any sign of alien presence. They found nothing. Viseth had cleaned away every trace of her stay, her natural camouflage, abilities hiding even microscopic evidence of her presence. But Voss wasn't satisfied. "Biological scanners are picking up trace amounts of Zephyrian pheromones," she announced. "Recent exposure." Marcus kept his expression neutral. "Probably contaminated. From my military gear. Still have some of my old equipment stored here. Show me." He led them to a storage room where his old armor and weapons gathered dust relics of a life he'd tried to leave behind. The scanners confirmed traces of alien contact, but that was expected from a veteran of the Zephyrian conflict. "Stand down." "The search," Voss finally ordered. "False positive." But as the soldiers prepared to leave, one of the younger Marines noticed something. "Colonel, these hydroponic systems are way too sophisticated for a simple homestead. The nutrient mixtures ... They're designed for non-terrestrial organisms." Marcus felt ice form in his veins as Voss turned back to him with predatory interest. "Care to explain why you're growing alien food, Marcus?" The choice, the silence stretched between them like a taut wire ready to snap. Marcus met Voss's steely gaze, knowing that his next words would determine not just Viseth's fate, but his own understanding of what it meant to be human. "Because," he said quietly, "I learned something out here that they never taught us in training. Empathy isn't weakness." Voss's hand moved to her sidearm. "You're harboring a fugitive alien combatant. That's treason, Marcus. No, he replied, stepping closer to the woman who'd once been his mentor. Treason was standing guard while innocent beings were tortured for information they didn't possess. Treason was following orders we knew were wrong because it was easier than questioning authority. The Marines raised their weapons, but Voss held up a restraining hand. She was studying Marcus with the intensity of a scientist examining an unexpected variable. She's here, isn't she? The Zephyrian? Marcus nodded. Her name is Viseth. She's not a combatant, she's a refugee fleeing the same system that traumatized both of us. Bring her out, Voss ordered. Slowly, Marcus activated his com system, speaking in the harmonic frequencies Viseth had taught him. The response came in wing patterns visible through the hydroponics bay's transparent walls, gold-touched, silver that meant trust, fear, acceptance. Viseth emerged from her hiding place like a living rainbow, her iridescent wings catching the alien sunlight. The Marines tensed, weapons tracking her movement, but she kept her hands visible and moved with deliberate care. Greetings, warriors of the far flight, she said in accented standard, her translator rendering Zephyrian idioms into human speech. I am Viseth of the Seventh Harmony. I seek only sanctuary from those who would silence the songs of my people. Voss stared at the alien woman, her worldview visibly struggling to accommodate this display of dignity and grace. You're the survivor from Research Station Catherine. I am. Our report said all subjects were terminated when the facility was overrun. Viseth's wings shifted to the mournful blue Marcus had learned meant grief. 16 of my clutch siblings died so that I might carry their final songs to freedom. Their sacrifice should not be meaningless. Something in Voss's expression cracked the first fissure in decades of conditioning. The research data from Catherine. It revolutionized our biotechnology programs. Saved thousands of human lives. At what cost? Marcus asked. How many Viseths died in agony so we could advance our weapons technology? The colonel was quiet for a long moment, her gaze moving between the human veteran and the alien refugee who'd found common ground in their shared trauma. When she finally spoke, her voice carried the weight of hard-won wisdom. You know, I can't just let you walk away from this. I know. The political ramifications alone, ... Voss shook her head. But there's something else you should know. The collective has agreed to peace negotiations. Preliminary talks start next month on the neutral station at Kepler 438. Viseth's wings exploded into patterns Marcus had never seen, cascading golds and silvers that spoke of hope beyond translation. The great harmony considers peace with the far flight singers? Seems your people are tired of war too, Voss said. Question is, what happens to you two in the meantime? Marcus looked at Viseth, seeing in her compound eyes the same determination he felt burning in his chest. We keep doing what we've been doing, proving that humans and Zephyrians can coexist. That's not how the chain of command works, Marcus. Then, maybe it's time the chain of command learned from its mistakes. Colonel Voss was quiet for another long moment, her weathered features cycling through emotions decades of military discipline had taught her to suppress. Finally, she turned to her Marines. Equipment malfunction in the bioscanners, she announced. False positive on the alien presence. We're returning to base. The soldiers exchanged confused glances, but followed orders, filing back toward their dropship. Voss lingered, studying the unlikely pair who'd somehow found friendship across the chum. Void of species difference. This conversation never happened, she said quietly. But if peace talks succeed, we'll need ambassadors who understand both sides. As the military vessels disappeared into Kepler's purple sky, Marcus and Viseth stood together in the garden that had become their sanctuary. Around them, human crops grew alongside Zephyrian songflowers, their roots intertwined in the alien soil. What happens now? Viseth asked, her wings shimmering with cautious optimism. Marcus smiled, the first genuine expression of hope he'd felt in years. Now we keep growing things. And maybe we help two species remember they're not so different after all. In the distance, Kepler's twin suns began their dance toward sunset, painting the sky in shades of possibility that neither human nor Zephyrian had words to describe. But together, they were learning the language of understanding one small act of compassion at a time.